Well, we started to move practically the day after all of the exams were finished, the last day of school. So that would have been about July 1st. We started to pack everything up. There was an enormous amount of things to move. We had moved from Michigan to Florida in 2005, and that alone was a very difficult job. But this one was a lot bigger. We had acquired many more books over the years. We had acquired more furniture because of more students. We had acquired more things in the sacristy, uh, many things that had to be moved. And so we had to order many boxes. Just the uh, the boxes and all of the what is known as dunnage, that is the stuffing and the protection that you put on things, cost us about $10,000 just to order those things. And then we had to pack everything up. We had to crate certain things because they were so delicate. And then finally, we had to load them onto trucks. We moved gradually, and we filled about 15 or 20 large Penske trucks that had to go over 1,000 miles up to Pennsylvania. It was a very strenuous activity for the seminarians who did all of the work themselves, packing and driving, and everything went well. There were no mishaps. It's just that on the other end, you have the unpacking, which I think is even worse, because when you pack, everything goes into a box. So you know exactly where it goes. It goes into some box. But when you pull everything out, you have to find a new place for it in your new surroundings. And that takes a long time, and it is very strenuous. And so I'm far from being completely settled. I arrived here approximately in the middle of October. This is the middle of November, and I'm still a long way from being what you would call settled in my room. Then we also had donations of books from two different sources. Many boxes of books from a person in Baltimore, and also from a deceased priest. And this was all in recent times. And so we have a great deal of books. We're probably approaching 20,000 books in our library. So I have to go through the library also and take out certain doubles that we have and certain books that are don't need to be there, in order to make room for all of the library books. So it's a very big task. I hope we never have to move again. However, we are at pretty much capacity, almost capacity at the present time with regard to both priests and students here. I think there's one room left, and so what will happen next year, I really don't know. Yes, we're hoping to establish mass centers in the area here. When we went to Florida, we went in cold. We had no. We had a few families there that had moved from Michigan, but now there are about 300 people at mass on Sunday. Now here, it's different because we don't have a parish church that they can come to here in Reading. So we have to go out to them. And so we want to establish mass centers in various cities and places around Reading, such as Harrisburg or the Philadelphia suburbs or parts of Maryland, for example. Reading is very well placed with regard to three states, Pennsylvania, Maryland, and New Jersey, Delaware, too. We're not very far from any of those places, so we could do all of that by car, which keeps things more economical. So there are many Catholics in the area. We are hoping that we will be able to say Mass for them and eventually establish churches for them as time goes on, just as we would do in any other place that we went into. Yes, you may recall that there was some controversy about what is known as the thesis of Cassiacom, which is simply a name for the material formal Sedevacantism, which means that the Novus Ordo popes, in quotation marks, are not true popes, but nonetheless they still have title from their elections. We're saying that their elections were in fact valid and that they still have title to become the pope if they were to repudiate their errors. This differs from something called totalism or totalist sedevacantism, which says they are not true popes and they have no title at all to become popes, their elections being invalid. So there was a controversy about that back in the spring. And so we decided at that time to put up a website which would explain in detail in the entire position, because we would want people to know exactly what we stand for and what we think. Now, again, that does not concern the seminary in itself. It concerns the Roman Catholic Institute. Now, the priests who teach here are all members of the Roman Catholic Institute. But the seminary still would train, for example, young men that would be sent by priests, perhaps, who hold to the other theory. We don't present it as a dogma, but we do hold it as, in the Roman Catholic Institute, as something that needs to be, which is obligatory to hold, only because we don't want controversy within our own ranks. We don't want factions. So we just say, this is what we hold, this is our position. So in any case, we would like to put up articles, and they are nearly all prepared already, put up articles which would explain in detail the position that we hold. We would also put it in a summary form by means of a catechism, a question and answer catechism concerning the thesis, for people who may not want to read through all of the articles that are at times a little technical, and so that they can understand it more simply. Some people think, well, it's like making him half a pope or something like that. It's just not true. It is he is no pope at all, in the sense that he has absolutely no power to rule the church. He's a false pope. But nonetheless, because he has never been legally condemned, there remains a title that he would have to become the pope because of an election. So that's the gist of it, we might say. And so I would encourage the lay people to read about this, because it is not merely a pure speculation. It involves many dogmas of the Catholic Church, including indefectibility and the perpetuity of the Catholic Church as an institution that is founded by Christ upon St. Peter until the end of time. So there are dogmas contained in it, dogmas which are explained by it. And we have to make sure that we do not fall into error as we oppose the errors of modernism. Sometimes that happens, that one error generates an opposite error, that those who are opposing a heresy, in fact, themselves fall into an error as they oppose the heresy. That has happened a lot in the history of the church. So it's important that we keep that we observe everything we need to observe concerning this problem in the church. Well, I would say the only thing different about what he has been doing is that he has been complaining about traditionalists, which I think is significant. Again and again, he is attacking traditionalists. And you saw about, I think back in May of this year, he suppressed a great deal of the traditional Latin Mass in the dioceses, or at least attempted to. I don't think there was much observance of it, because there are still quite a few traditional Latin Masses done in various dioceses under the auspices of the Novus Ordo. And he did not suppress the various congregations that do say the traditional Latin Mass. So I don't think it had much effect, but from time to time in the past, I would say year, he has been lashing out against traditionalists, and he said, especially in the United States. And it's true that this is the most traditional country, if you might say, if you want to say, in other words, the most observance of the traditional Latin Mass is here in this country, both from the point of view of those who function under the auspices of the diocese and those who do not, such as SSPX, such as Sedevacantists. So there's a lot of traditional Latin Mass in this country. And so I'd say that's the one thing. I think it's significant because I think it shows a progress in what we are doing. It is one thing if you see a mouse in your house, you say, well, there goes a mouse. You don't think too much of it. But if you have an infestation of mice, you think about it a lot. And he thinks that we are an infestation, that this is something that threatens Vatican II. And the fact that he's talking about it so much indicates to me that he's concerned about its progress and the fact that it attracts young people, whereas the Novus Ordo does not attract any young people. They want nothing whatever to do with it. And most of the people still going to the Novus Ordo are the elderly group. There was a Novus Ordo priest who told us in his parish, I think in the year 2020, there were 3 funerals a week, but only 1 wedding during the whole year. And that was in a parish of 2,000 families. So that says a lot. It says that most of the people who are attending are people who were brought up in the 1950s and who went to church no matter what. And they still, even after the Novus Ordo, continued to go to church and were influenced by the Novus Ordo. Whereas the young people really just don't care about it. It's so shallow and silly that it just has no appeal for them. Yeah, it's it's an exercise in pure modernism. If you read Pascendi, which is St. Pius X's condemnation of modernism, he says that dogma is an expression of the religious experience, that everyone has, according to modernism, an interior religious experience of God. And they formulate dogmas and ideas, essentially, about these religious experiences that they have. And this is how religions are born. So the Buddhists have their religious experiences and their dogmas and so forth, the Confucianists and the Muslims, etc. Well, so Catholics have these religious experiences, and according to modernism, and this is also in Pascendi, it is the role of authority to listen to the religious experience of the laity and to express these religious experiences in dogma. And therefore, dogma must change as the religious experience of the lay people changes also. So this synod is listening. That's, if you follow it, they're listening. They're listening to the church, and that they are following exactly the blueprint that Pius X laid out.